Alright, this is going to be a quick update on the SW1200 build. Made some pretty good progress on it in the past couple weeks. Most of the serious surgery is already done as far as cutting the shell and everything, which takes a lot of guts cutting a brand new model up, but it's kind of worth it in the end. I've got these etched metal parts, the grates installed. I got the fan and the there's some blades here in the back that are just taped in for now, just test fitting everything. I put it all back together just to do a dry fit to see if everything fits. With the radiator core at the bottom here, there's some clearance issues that I had to take care of, but I'll pull the shell off in a little bit and I'll show you guys what I had to do. Not a big deal, but definitely a little bit of modifications to be done. Let's see. These are the spark arresters that I kind of just built out of tube styrene. Nothing fancy. I did this on my GP7 build as well. And they come out okay once they're painted black. You can't really see the little imperfections, but that's the best I could do there for the style spark arresters that are on this model. As far as the trucks, as I mentioned in the first video, a really nice part about finding these undecorated models is they come with every part for every model that they build. So I was able to piece together the correct the trucks here, the side frames, and the bearings as well. Coincidentally, Model Railroader Video Plus, they actually just announced, or they just showed their new video on detailing a switcher kind of like mine. Cody Gribno's doing it, so I found that kind of funny. It's kind of exactly what I'm doing, and I learned something that I didn't realize before. The older Proto 2000 model that I had, the bearings are incorrect on it. I didn't know that they sold replacement, well, they're not really replacement, but aftermarket detail ones that you could cut off and put the new ones on. And I saw him do that, so that was pretty interesting. Maybe I'll do that to the other model sometime in the future. But so I made sure I had the right ones on the new build. The handrails or the steps here installed. I'll spin it around here. Nothing too much in the back. A couple handrails there. The pilots I did mount in. I just had to cut the bottom. It was metal, so I had to cut this bottom. There's a little lip there that you can't see anymore, but then I just glued that in. So that looks really nice. It saved a lot of time scratch building one out of styrene. So put a new figure in there, which I'll show you guys once I pulled the shell off what I did with that. And the front, the fan, which is kind of hard to see, but I've just got it taped in there temporarily. So let me pull the shell off, and we'll go through some of the small detail parts that I had to do, or some modifications I had to do, and just the overall new construction of this frame. It's a little different from the Proto 2000 models. Alright, so right away when I pulled it apart, they've got a new motor in this, a new style motor. I tested it DC, because again, this is just a DC model, and it worked forward and reverse, so I know it works. The motor sounds pretty smooth, or pretty quiet. We'll see once I get the decoder installed in the future. A new board they offer here, which is really nice. It's got all the pins, each individual, the front trucks, the rear trucks, the lights, the motor, they all connect to the board instead of the older style, which each one is soldered on, and you kind of have to cut the wires to take it apart, which kind of stinks. But this new design is really nice. You could actually unbolt everything, disconnect everything, and take it all apart. And right here you can see the connector. So it looks like I think it's an 18 pin connector, so I'll probably need an adapter to go to the new ESU loc sound decoder, but I haven't really gotten that far yet with it. One question I did have before we took it apart was the type of speaker. So it's the same design again as the other, this cast front block here with the plastic speaker cover, whereas the other one was kind of recessed in with the foam style speaker, whereas the new ones, here's an extra part that I got, but it actually is for a sugar cube speaker, which works out great because I've got a few of these already. So that just fits right in there perfectly, and it bolts down on top just like that. So that's pretty nice. Another thing I did have to modify was this light right here, where the little light bulb mounts in right here, and that's for the front headlight. However, with the new grates up here in the radiator core, it kind of inhibits that from sitting all the way flush, so I had to trim it down, and what I've come up with is this casting here, or for the headlight, there's a plastic piece that goes in the inside for the lenses. So what I'm gonna have to do is kind of cut it, drill a little hole in it, and then kind of glue in a small micro LED, or two of them, for the headlights, which isn't a huge deal. It should look just fine once it's all put together. You won't even really notice it, but I had to cut that down in order for the new piece to kind of fit in there, for the shell to fit all the way down. And there's a couple other additional detail parts that I will put in once I install it. It's just covers that go underneath this grill here, but I'll kind of paint them black, and I'll paint the radiator black, and I'll install that once everything is painted, because I don't want to get paint on that or the fan once while I'm spraying the shell. So I'll install that at the end. There's a good shot of the fan. Really nice detail. I think it's going to look great once it's all painted up and installed. Another little detail that I did was I replaced the figures that were in these. They were the same as the old Proto 2000, these guys here. So I had a couple of these extra figures laying around, so I replaced them there. Unfortunately, I had to cut his legs off, but he's just put in there now with some thumbtack. I'll kind of trim him a little more to make him look like he's sitting a little better, and glue him in once I'm ready to install it. But these are, again, those Walthers figures that I had. I've had these for a while, and I just repaint them. I prime them, and then I use some various paints to get the colors that I like. So I've been doing these like high-vis shirts and vests and stuff on these figures, and they look pretty cool. So I think you'll see him pretty well, obviously, inside the cab. And his hands are kind of perfect for it. Looks like he's on the controls there, so that should be cool. Here's an example of another one that I painted. I saw someone with a pink high-vis vest on recently, so I figured I'd try that. So I found some Testors Bright paint and painted her. Or actually, I made this a girl. You can see her hair there. My wife was like, "Oh, need a female on there," so here she is. And these are the paints that I use. And you can find them at Michael's. These neon color Testors paint. There's the pink one too. Alright, so now that I'm finished with all the serious modifications and cutting with this, we're getting ready for paint now. So next I'm going to strip the frame down completely, removing the motor, the trucks, all the wiring, and the speaker housing here. So it's not too much. It's actually a lot easier with the newer design. A few bolts and it all comes apart, so that makes it pretty easy. We're painting this all black, and then I'll start painting all the detail parts, the trucks and the fuel tank and so on. As for the body, I'll just use most likely the Tamiya fine primer, and then mix up some paint so I could find or see what looks right for this road number. Again, I'm going to model it after that picture that I showed you, that a specific road number, but I'm not going to go too crazy. It's, again, these locomotives in real life are just kind of thrown together and thrown out on the road to work. It's nothing special, so it's going to be loosely based off a prototype, but the number will be the same, but some details will be a little different. So I'm still going to work on that little cooler mount back here as well, and then I'll mix some paints together and see what I could do to replicate the color that's on that specific model. I use reefer yellow and a little bit of orange, mix it together, and it looks pretty close to the Railserve yellow or orange. And we'll go from there, and then I'll decide how far I want to go with the weathering and the rusting and all that stuff. So the next video will probably be, hopefully everything should be painted, and we'll be moving on to probably adding the additional details and getting ready for the decoder install. So anyway, guys, thanks again. I appreciate all the comments. I'm excited to get this done and have another update for you guys shortly.